powering progress, sustainable energy as the backbone of Africa's digital future. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelist is no other person but the Senior Associate Judge Etomi and partners, no other person but Diana Abasi. Please, a round of applause as she comes up on stage. I think we can do better. Come on, let's make our panelists feel good. Thank you so much. Thank you. I also have on my list Talabi, the Chief Executive Officer, Electron Energy. Please, a round of applause as he comes up on stage. I also have on this list Oluwole Adeote, the Head of Operations, Digital Realty in Nigeria, who also joined them right here. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular fireside chat will be moderated by the Chief Executive Officer of JourneyServe, no other person but Bwenga Adebiji. Please, a round of applause as he comes up on stage. Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here, and I want to welcome our panelists. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, the MC, for introducing our panelists. We want to look at a very critical aspect of digital infrastructure this morning. And I'm privileged to have these wonderful people here. We have a data center operator in our midst who has a lot of experience across West Africa. Is the Director of Operations for Digital Realty, Oluwole Adeoti. We have Mr. Tola Talabi, is the CEO of Electron Energy. So he's a very experienced person when it comes to independent power producing, and he will be also letting us know how do we solve a lot of challenges, and I'm going to expose those challenges as we go. And then we have Diana Abasi Okop, Senior Associate, George Etomi and partners. Thank you very much, Madam. She will be looking at the legal framework and how can we make some of these infrastructure projects bankable. My name is Benga Degwiji, and I work with JourneyServe Limited as the CEO. Now, Africa is scaling. Africa is scaling. And when you're looking at data center, we're looking at digital infrastructure, for instance, Africa is scaling using data center. We're building a lot of data center. We're building a lot of cloud platform. We're building a lot of, now AI is coming. Federal government is investing a lot in connectivity, all in an attempt to solve the digital problem or to, ensure that Africa participates in the next digital economy. Now, there is usually one thing that people don't really talk about. The last panelists, they talked about at the time when they were closing, and which is power. Now, let us understand why this is becoming very, very important. In the last 5 years, there have been about 60 new data center, co-location data centers that has been, across Africa. And it is estimated that another 500 megawatt of capacity will be built between now and 2030. Now, the question is, operators, when you look at the likes of mobile operators who used to be mobile operator, telephone operators before, everybody is now looking at being a digital service provider. So everything is moving digital. AI is becoming what everybody is used to now. And AI will continue to be power hungry as we go because these machines actually will be more intelligent in the next 5 years than they are today. Now, in the last 5 years, 10 years thereabout, data centers that were built in the last maybe 2015, 2014, thereabout, an average power is about 3 kilowatts, 5 kilowatts. When you have 5 kilowatts, you look at 5 kilowatts then as high density. Today, when you have a GB200, NVIDIA GB200, and I'm telling you because I've seen it before, NVIDIA GB200 in one rack, 4 of those in one node of a rack can consume between 60 to 70 kilowatts. And and a GB300 consume much more than that. The question that we have is, we have a lot of efficiency that we have to worry about. We have a lot of sustainability pressures. How do we bridge this digital gap? And I'm happy to have the lady and the gentleman here in the house. Thank you very much. And I will sit down since it's a fireside chat, so we can be side by side. And I'll start with Mr. Tola Talavi. It's a pleasure having you. I want to ask you, Temi, the convener, in his introductory speech, was talking about over 600 people do not have access. Let's even start from there. Access to electricity. What does that mean to you when you look at how you think Nigeria will solve a lot of this digital gap in the future? What does access to electricity mean to you as an expert in this area? And how do you see that if at this point we have over 600 million Africans still don't have access to power? How do we then, solve these issues, of how do we address this issue, number one?
Right, thank you. So just a little bit of background. So Electron Energy, our company, we develop independent power plants that primarily focus on commercial and industrial clusters, either as embedded power plants in partnership with distribution companies or as captive solutions. Today, we power industries. We also power data centers such as Rack Center, Glow data centers, and telecom infrastructure for the likes of IHS. Now, I think what's interesting, and I think will become more apparent, is that the power sector in Nigeria, and I think consequently across Africa, is undergoing a transformation. And what underpins that transformation is a viable commercial framework for investment in power, in reliable power and availability across the board. Now, I'm really excited to be here to speak to data center practitioners. And the reason is that I think the key message that I would like to put across is that power, which really is spoken of significantly as a challenge, actually is an opportunity for data centers. And I say that because when developers, investors in the power sector are looking to deploy capital, we're literally looking for data centers as the primary consumers of the power that we generate because of the criticality of the power as a service for those data centers and looking at them potentially as the base load for the data center. So your needs for power across the board are actually an opportunity. Now, the question is, we need to position ourselves and data centers need to be available for that to become a reality. Now, in providing, for example, in Victoria Island, where we currently have under construction a $50 million independent power plant that would take most of Victoria Island off the national grid and provide embedded power here. So even this building where we're in would be on that IPP, but so will be several data centers in Victoria Island as their primary source of power. Now, what does that mean? In solving for customers such as data centers, who are the compelling customers, you also, as an embedded power plant producer, provide power to a wider customer base. So it is critical that, and it is really exciting, when we hear about the demand that data centers are going to have, it actually makes the commercial case for power to the wider customer base and even, the underserved customers who can't by themselves provide a commercial base. So we're at the beginning of that transformation. Data centers are critical. That's why I'm here, because it's so important that that message gets across that this challenge that data centers have actually is a compelling business case from the standpoint of power producers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tola. That's very insightful. And very insightful because some years back, like 10 years, maybe also, maybe some between the last 5 years and 10 years, for instance, the thinking is always that, yes, because if you bypass the distribution network, you are going to get reliable power. And we demonstrated it before, some times ago, when we had to do direct connection to a coal electricity. We did, to the national grid through the eco Aja transmission. I mean, so you have some. But the truth of the matter is, even the transmission, I mean, if we're talking about, and we need to really look at the reality on ground. I was given an example of one AI node will consume 60, which used to be like 30 racks in those days. So the truth of the matter is, even the grid does not have the kind of power that we will be looking at in the next 5 years. So I think having a solution where you have a captive IPP and having, data center, saving even the data center. In some other countries, I think Ireland, they have to also just stop the people from connecting, from data center from connecting to the national grid. So I think that's a very good solution that operators should be looking at. Now, Wally, let me come to you. Across West Africa, now we talked about the issue of the grid. Even when you have the direct connection to the grid today, which may be solving the problem of today, it doesn't solve the problem of tomorrow. The grid is not reliable. You have to be efficient as a data center, otherwise you're going to be losing a lot of money. Now, there is also the third constraint of sustainability. So if you want to run your own generator, you are not going to be sustainable. Now, as an operation expert, how do you balance this efficiency, sustainability, and cost of operation?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Adegbiji. As I was introduced earlier, I work for Digital Reality as the head of operations. These three constraints, there are three diverse constraints. They don't work together. When you talk in terms of reliability, you talk in terms of cost, and you talk in terms of sustainability. Now, we know, like you said earlier, that our grid is not that reliable. And for many data centers today, the alternative you have is your generator. And when you try to run your generator, sustainability issue comes up because you running generator, it's not, it's increasing your carbon footprint, your carbon bond, and as a result, you're not doing efficiently sustainability. And even running generator is quite expensive. It's not cheap running your own personal generator. So what we do, or mainly what we do, is that you just have to adopt what I call a comprehensive approach. Now, this approach, you have to integrate efficiency, then you have to integrate resource management, and at the same time, you integrate how you reduce your waste. Now, in this integrated approach, you build what I call a sustainable alternative. Now, mark that word, sustainable. Now, we have quite a lot of alternatives, but most of the alternatives, you agree with me, in this our present climate, they are not sustainable. Now, I hear my brother from Morocco talks about maybe green energy, solar, and sort of. You all agree with me that in Africa, or in most African countries today, or even in Nigeria today, your solar in the research, yes, most of us have it as part of our documentation, we are going green, but how many chunk of power is actually that green that we are going is serving us? Can you imagine maybe, let's say, a data center that is doing maybe, like a brother that said they're building about 100 megawatt data center. Now, how many green can they go to service that 100 megawatt data center as we speak today in Nigeria? That is the reality. So when I talk about you developing a sustainable alternative, an alternative that works for you. We have to look inward, look at an alternative that works for you as an operator. Then you build in efficiency into your energy utilization. Then again, you try to reduce your waste. Now, some data center, at least from experience, like Benga said, in my previous word, in building that sustainable alternative, I know what we did initially was we tried to invest in our distribution line because we know quite well, as we speak today, I'm talking about today now, we have quite enough generation, but most of our issue today is distribution. So you investing in distribution, that could be one alternative, and that could help improve your maybe availability. Yes, when we did that, we have quite a number of improvement in our availability. We could, service our customer and reduce our carbon footprint, reduce the number of time we have to run on generator. That's one of the alternatives we build. Then the other alternative that most of us do these days is that you go into natural gas, maybe in partnership with the IPP, so that at least with that, you are being sustainable, and at the same time, you try to optimize your cost, and at the same time, you are reliable. So in part of the alternative, as part of the alternative, after doing the alternative, like I talk about energy efficiency. Now, the energy efficiency has to do what you do internally. Now, you find out that most data centers, you just have to optimize your processes. Now, you do that by some invest in what we call maybe advanced, maybe analytics. You advance, maybe you invest in some data center infrastructure management systems that can help you analyze how you're doing, and that can, tells you some areas that you can improve for better efficiency. And sometimes again, what we'll do internally to help manage those three constraints is that you have to optimize your cooling. Because you all agree with me, those that are familiar with data center, today, cooling is your major chunk of power in every data center. So what we try to do is that you try to have an efficient cooling system. Now, by having an efficient cooling system, I'm not only referring to maybe the cooling infrastructure, even the build itself. You talk about the containment system, whether you're doing the cold eye or the hot eye containment. With that, you'll be able to manage your cooling efficiently. Okay. And also, you can invest in some latest cooling infrastructure. Most of the cooling we have these days, even without going to the real AI stuff, you have a lot of cooling today that comes with inbuilt VSD. So with that on their own, they can self-regulate. When you don't need cooling, they just operate at the base. Maybe the fan just only work, and when the cooling is required, the compressor picks up, and by so doing, you could cool your facility effectively. So all this helps you to reduce your carbon footprint. And when you reduce your carbon footprint, your energy requirement will reduce, and that will translate into cost reduction. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much, Wally. Diana, I'm coming to you now. Now, we've seen that the current state of our power system or energy system, whatever it is, will not solve the problem of the future. And we can go on and on and on and on. What kind of regulatory framework, as a lawyer, I'm sure you've seen a lot of contracts and things like that. In your perspective, what kind of regulatory framework you think will be able to take advantage of some of the things that we have talked about and attract investment into this sector?
Thank you for that question. I think the regulatory framework, I think the regulatory framework is already in place.
Okay.
With the advent of the Electricity Act 2023.
Okay.
In the previous panel, there was reference to the eligible customer regulations. In terms of legislation and regulation, there should be enough incentive for investors to come in. What I think we should be talking about, and why you may not see a lot of people try to plug into the power space, is that the sector is still not bankable on a utility scale for people to come in.
So what do you mean by bankable? I mean,
So you still have your liquidity issues.
what?
There are still illiquidity issues.
Okay.
You're looking to, so for instance, I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Etomi, Mr. George Etomi.
that's fine.
Used to be an investor, a former director in Ecodisco. So the idea behind the privatization was that private investors would come in, put in money into discos, gencos, and then get their money back.
Okay.
But here we are, how many years after? 20?
Yeah, something.
And they're still being owed. Mr. Tomi's point is usually that from the start, government did not keep their bargain. And so even though private sector guys put in funds into the sector, the enabling environment for people to take their funds out, to repatriate those funds was not there. And up to now, you still have issues around debt on a Genco side, Disco being unable to collect their monies, TCN being weak. So if you're thinking what regulatory framework is needed for people to come in, the Electricity Act is full of options. Even on the transmission side, you have people, there's an opportunity for private transmission lines to be set up and different things. The question is, we will want to put their money in there because they haven't seen other people put their money and get it out, except you run a framework like the IPP, like Electron. But if you're thinking utility scale, disco scale, that's not very attractive. What I do think may be attractive is if, with the state's electricity markets coming on, is if states then begin to create bankable frameworks that allow investors plug into that space and get their profits out.
That's very interesting. Thank you for bringing that up because I know, and Mr. Tola Talabi, I know you are in that whatever. What do you want to say? You seem to have something, a response to what she has said.
So Diana has raised a really important, I would say, legacy issue that plagues the industry, which is the issue of bankability. Now, I will go back to the point, I'm going to repeat this a few times, is the opportunity that data centers represent because they are unique in the significantly large amounts of power they need to consume, right? And the opportunity there is that data centers actually help create that bankability for investment in power. So, when I sit here and different speakers are talking about their power needs and the various solutions they're looking to provide, well, all those are compelling investment cases because they have a real business that can pay for the power. So whether it is, look, even in the US, they're moving away from the utility itself providing the solution. However, I think, unique to our environments in Africa and even more in Nigeria is really a hybrid approach, right? So we can look at situations where if there's a data center that's being developed in the Bejuleki area, right? That data center becomes what is a base load for investment in a substation to enhance utility power, a base load potentially for an embedded solution where, for example, the data centers need maybe 20 megawatts, but it becomes a base load for companies like ours or developers like ourselves to come in and build a 50 megawatt power plant with a diversified customer base, providing the data center with the same reliability, power quality, and consistency that they need on a contractual basis where it's actually guaranteed with SLAs and liquidated damages and all those types of frameworks that folks like Diana are really good to holding us to. But at the same time, provide that power for the data center at a lower cost. And in some cases, even, free up some of their real estate from being dedicated to power. So that transformation is going on as we speak. Data centers are key to bankability in key commercial centers, which would be, I think, the initial focus for these types of solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What I'm hearing is before now, data centers are built and then power was sticking to the data center. In future, with some of the things that we've seen today, that data center increases. I think somebody mentioned one of the statistics shows that about 40% year on year is the increase in power when you talk about data center. So what we see tomorrow is that data center will have to go to where power is. Because as a matter of fact, if you need 60 megawatts, if you want to build 60, I've seen a lot of numbers in Lagos, people that want to build 40 megawatts, 60 megawatts. I look at those things and I laugh. As an electrical engineer, I know what 40 megawatts means within a particular environment. When you consume 40 megawatts of power, you are going to radiate heat equivalent to very slightly less than 40 megawatts of heat. So, there is a lot that we need to think about when we're looking about infrastructure that will power our digital future. And I think we need to start that conversation right now. The right investment needs to be put where it is. And so as you're building data center, you're putting money in cloud and putting servers, don't forget that power will have to power all those things. And I want to give 1 or 2 minutes for questions for this lady and gentleman. Do you have any question, please?
Hi, good morning. My name is Peter. I just want to ask, is there any restriction to the size of data center or location that you can build data center in Nigeria or in Lagos? For example, you want to build a 50 megawatts data center. Is there a location that you are not permitted to build? Or is there a restriction, an area you are supposed to build such capacity? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Is that a regulatory question or who's going to take a shot at that?
It's 2 ways. Now, even the data center operators themselves, there are areas we don't build data centers. Let me come from that angle. I can't situate my data center close to the airport, too close to the airport. And because there's some design consideration, when you try to design a data center, there's some design consideration you look into. For example, if I see maybe a gas station, maybe where you sell petrol and everything, I can't just go and situate maybe a depot now. There's a depot close to me. I can't go and put my data center close to a depot because of the fire risks that could spring up from the depot. So in building up a data center, we as a data center operator, we have some design consideration in terms of locations. We have some things that prompt us to situate data center anywhere we build them. One of them, before now, it used to be maybe connectivity, maybe access to good roads, access to power, and things like that. So, but in terms of regulation, I'm not sure maybe there is any government regulation that restrict that for now. But we, as a data center operator, we have our own consideration before we set up any data center. Thank you.
Just to add a little bit to what Wally said. So there are standards, and specification. There is TIA 942, which specify how redundancy has to be done within the data center. There is the uptime, which we know, which really talks about whether the data center is concurrently maintainable or is fault tolerant and all that. But like I said, if you look at, you need to understand, and I've seen data centers in Lagos. When you look at what data center is the bedrock of everything that we do today. If we switch off the cell site that powers all your mobile phone here, half of people that are sitting down here will go up. They'll go out to go and look for signal because our life depends on it. Now, So when you look at a data center as a facility that cannot go down, so then you have to look at power, which is reliability. You need to look at the connectivity. Do you have access to connectivity? And is it multiple sources of connectivity? Because a fiber cut should not take your data center down. So you need to look at that. Then you need enough space, circulation within the area. When fuel is coming, because you still need to have like generator in any case as a backup. So when a diesel truck comes to your facility, should not catch fire. And if it catches fire, it should not catches your data center. So all those things within you need to look at space, requirements, and all that. And anywhere you have all those things we are talking about, you have power, you have space, you have circulation, good road, like he said, and you are able to meet those redundancies. There are some other, little details of what you need to do, especially as it relates to that, maintaining that redundancy. Once you have that, I don't think there is any place that say you can build here, you cannot build there. And that is why you have a lot of data center here. You also have data center on the mainland. Thank you very much.
So my question today will be, considering that you are an independent power provider, yeah, and how do you navigate regulatory restrictions that grant exclusive right to discos, right, supplying power within their franchise areas, thereby limiting embedded and captive power providers like yourself?
So I'm going to be very careful how I answer this question because IHS is one of our prized customers. And if I reveal all my secrets, I might not have business from you again. No, so look, the reality of the matter is this, is that ultimately one has to partner with discos and the disco owners. I've spent and had many long meetings with Mr. George Utomi, who is an investor in Eco Disco and is ably represented by Diana today. And what you need to help them see, right, is the win-win, right? Ultimately, and I'll use IHS as an example, we have connected over 500 cell sites, IHS cell sites, to Eco Disco infrastructure, right, through this collaboration, providing a win-win where IHS is able to reduce their diesel consumption and cost of power by providing, investing directly in the disco's infrastructure and building out feeders to connect to those cell sites. So really, it's key to understand the business of the distribution company to align in a win-win where commercially, that's 500 user points that they didn't have and sources of revenue, which we have come in some instances to partner with IHS to finance and provide power. So I think really it's really understanding how do we look at what these challenges are, how do we collaborate with the various participants and find a viable solution. Same thing with embedded generation, right? So where we partner with the disco, we invest in their networks, we're able to raise capital and ultimately provide the customers such as data centers with reliable, cheaper, and more sustainable power, so cleaner power. If you're going from diesel to gas, if you're going from diesel to LPG or hybrid with some solar and storage, it's still cleaner, more sustainable energy. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
Oh, you want to? Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to add to give me some perspective around that. I'm aware of a transaction with Eco Disco that couldn't sail through because the data center was trying to get power with a Genco and the Disco. And the contract failed because Disco couldn't provide reliability, availability. So let's say we're asking for a 98% availability. They couldn't give that guarantee because they couldn't even have it in the first place. Even though they have SLAs with TCN and all that, because they cannot guarantee that this substation or this feeder will always provide light at this time, it was a stalled transaction. So just to give some context around why you need IPPs and embedded generation guys to facilitate that process?
Well, thank you very much. I think our time is up, so I want to,
It's been
before we're
up. It's
chased
been
out
up.
of this place, I want to sincerely appreciate Diana Oluwole and Mr.
Tola.
Tola Talavi.
Yeah. Tola
Thank
Tola.
you very much. It's been an insightful one, and I'm sure that our audience have taken one or two things. So next time you're thinking about Africa digital future, you're thinking about data centers, and as we are designing your data center, please take into consideration that what will enable that facility now and in the future is reliable, sustainable, and cost-effective power options. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well moderated, Benga. Please a round of applause to the fireside chat. Powering progress, sustainable energy as the backbone of Africa's digital future. Judging by the applause, they were thoroughly informed